you state your first and last name and spell your first and last name for the court reporter?
Valerie Mayra, Valerie
Thank you. If you raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You can have a seat.
Good morning.
Good morning.
If you could do me a favor and just speak up as much as you can because the table has to be able to hear what you're saying too, okay?
Yes, I'll try.
Can you tell us how you're employed?
I am employed with the Oakland County Sheriff's Office as a forensic lab investigator.
And can you tell the court what that means to be a forensic lab investigator?
So I am assigned to the latent print unit where I will process and examine items of evidence for the presence of latent prints, such as fingerprints, and ultimately try to identify the source of those prints. I also am part of the crime scene team, so I will respond to and process major crime scenes within the county.
And how many major crime scenes have you been a part of at this point in your career?
Several dozen.
Okay. And some of those are homicide crime scenes?
Yes, mostly.
And I think you and I have had some homicide cases in the past, in fact, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. I'm going to direct your attention back to October 11th of 2024. Were you called out by the Sheriff's Office in that capacity that day?
I was.
And can you tell us approximately what time it was that you arrived at where you were called to?
Would I be able to refer to my report to access
Yes.
that?
Let me also, if I can approach, you did do a report for this, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And would that also help refresh your recollections?
I think if you're asking about a specific time, that would be in my notes.
Okay, but you did do a report also.
I did.
Okay, I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit number 4, if I can approach. Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes.
Okay, is that the report that you authored?
Yes.
And that doesn't help refresh your recollection as far as the time, though. So can you look at whatever items you have present that would help indicate what time you responded?
Yes. It looks like I arrived there at 2:18 in the afternoon.
Okay, and when you say there, what was the address that you responded to?
3730 Newcastle Drive in Rochester Hills.
Okay, is that located in the city of Rochester Hills in Oakland County, Michigan?
Yes.
And what did you first observe when you arrived at that location?
When I arrived, there were several first responding officers around. It was a large home and in a residential neighborhood. And initially we were kind of just there to get the summary of what had occurred before making entry.
Okay, and when you say we, who else are you referring to when you say we?
That would be my teammates on my crime scene response team.
Okay, and as far as teammates, I know we're all employed by Oakland County, but when you're talking about teammates, you're not talking about deputies or detectives. Are you specifically talking about folks who work in the evidence collection?
Yes, that would be some individuals from the forensic lab and also some deputies who have who are part of a crime scene response team.
Okay, and did you obtain information from deputies and detectives at the scene about what had happened?
Yes.
Did you, as part of evidence collection, go through the house itself?
Yes.
Can you tell us what you remember about going through the residence and things of evidentiary significance that you saw as you did that?
Sure. Upon entry, the main level didn't have too much that was observed evidentiary-wise. We found a couple pieces of what looked like black electrical tape on the main level. Upstairs.
And when you say you saw that tape, what room was that tape located?
That was in the dining area of the kitchen. So there was a dining room and then there was a dining area in the kitchen itself. So that tape was found there, and then also in an adjacent hallway.
Okay.
And then upstairs, the master bedroom looked like it had been ransacked. It had several drawers pulled out of the dressers and overturned, and I assume the contents that were in those drawers were kind of strewn about the room. There was also a blood swipe mark, a apparent blood swipe mark in a spare bedroom that's also upstairs. And then downstairs is where we found the decedent.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked, if I can approach People's Exhibit number 3A. All these exhibits have been shown to both council beforehand. Do you recognize this as a vehicle parked in front of that residence?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 3B. Do you recognize this as the entryway to that house, the front?
I do.
Okay, you indicated that you went downstairs, is that correct?
Yes,
Into the basement?
to the basement.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 3C. Do you recognize that photograph as the individual that you saw in the basement?
Yes.
Okay, now there's a set of stairs that go into the basement, and then we see the decedent's body down there. As best as you can give us an estimate, how much distance is it from the bottom of those stairs to where the decedent is laying?
We didn't take measurements, but if I were to estimate, it was about 10 feet.
Okay. And that accurately reflects what you saw?
Yes.
Did you, I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 3D. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And can you tell us what's in Exhibit 3D?
That is an empty firearm holster that was on the decedent's hip.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 3E. Do you recognize that as the head area of the decedent?
Yes.
Does that accurately reflect what you saw?
Yes.
There was other evidence of blood in the basement, not just at the decedent's body. Is that correct?
Yes, several objects had apparent blood spatter.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 3G. Do you recognize that exhibit?
I do.
And can you tell us where that blood is located?
That is on the faucet of a sink that was on the ground lying near the decedent.
Okay, and when you say sink on the ground, is that an operable sink or inoperable sink?
It appeared inoperable at the time.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 3H. Can you tell us what that is?
That is the weights and the weight bar that were semi underneath the victim after we had moved him.
Okay. And what appears to be blood by that?
Correct.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 3I. Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes, that was the floor underneath the decedent after he had been moved.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 3J. Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes.
And what's in that exhibit?
That is the decedent's hands, which are bound at the wrists.
And how are they bound?
With black duct tape type material and also with zip ties.
And I'll show you the last exhibit, exhibit number 3K. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And can you tell us what's in that exhibit?
That is the decedent's feet, one which has a shoe on it, and then the matching shoe, which is nearby.
Your Honor, at this time, the people move Exhibit 3A through 3K into evidence and publish to court.
Any objections?
No objection for exam purposes.
I have no objection, but I didn't hear what G was.
Counsel.
You said 3G.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Identified.
He did not hear what G was. What is 3G?
The sink that we discussed earlier today.
Okay, thank you. The exhibits will be admitted into evidence, having heard no objection.
And I think I did, but in case I didn't, I moved exhibit number 1 into evidence too. I know we published it.
You did, and that was admitted.
Now, as far as evidence that you actually collected, could you tell us what you actually collected from the scene?
Yes. Do you just want me to go through them 1 through 20?
Yes, if you collected evidence and you gave it a designated number, if you could do both so that we know what number goes to what piece of evidence.
Okay, the number that I numbered it at the scene?
Yeah, as numbered in your report.
Okay, so number 1 were some tape pieces that were found on the kitchen floor. Number 2 was a piece of tape that was found in the hallway that led to the garage. Number 3 was a section of tape that was found on the kitchen island. Number 4 were a pair of glasses that were found on a shutter on the basement floor. Number 5 were what we refer to as large zip ties. There were 2 sets of zip ties on the basement floor. There was one that was larger than the other, so number 5 was the larger set, and number 6 was the smaller set. Number 7 was a section of tape that was found on burlap fabric that was in the basement. Number 8 was a roll of tape that was found on the basement floor. Number 9 was an apparent bloody impression that was found on the basement floor under the large set of zip ties. Number 10 was an apparent bloody impression on a ceiling tile that was found near the victim. Number 11 was apparent blood that was found on the shutter near the victim. Number 12 was apparent blood found on the side of a box that was on the basement floor. Number 13 was apparent blood found on that sink faucet. Number 14 was a roll of tape that was found in that sink. Number 15 were plastic bags that were also found in that sink. Number 16 was apparent blood that was found in a swipe mark in that spare bedroom on the second floor. Number 17, we collected DNA swabs that were on the duct tape that were binding the victim's hands. 5A were DNA swabs taken from the large set of zip ties, which was number 5. 6A were DNA swabs taken from item 6, which were the smaller set of zip ties. 18 were weights with the bar, and that was found near the body. 19 were two individual weights that were stacked on top of each other, found under the body after it was moved. And number 20 was a ring that was found near the body as well.
Okay. In addition to doing the DNA swabbing, was there any attempts to lift latent fingerprints?
Yes,
Okay.
there were, sorry.
And that was attempted at the scene, is that correct?
Yes,
And you're involved with the processing and comparison of any fingerprints in this case, is that correct?
I am.
Okay, and at this time, those results have not been completed, is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay. And people would move People's Exhibit number 4 into evidence. I don't have any other questions.
Any objection for exam purposes?
Well, I
Any
haven't
objection?
objection either.
Thank you. Exhibit 4 is admitted.
I didn't have any other questions, Judge.
Thank you. Any cross-exam? Yes, thank you.
Ma'am, just some clarification as to number 17. You indicated that it was duct tape that was found on the victim. Are you able to elaborate which victim? Obviously, there's 2 in this case. Was it the male or the female, if you know?
It was the deceased male.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Cross-exam.
Deputy Maya, my name is Michael McCarthy. I represent one of the defendants in this case, Joshua Slazo, and I just have a few questions to ask you here today regarding your testimony. If I don't make myself clear, please tell me that. I'll rephrase the question, okay?
Okay.
Now, in this report, there are, and you've just itemized all of the things that were collected and mentioned that they were shown on this sketch that's part of exhibit number 4. And what I am just wanting to ask you is if you could tell me where the items number 18, 19, and 20, which are the weights with the bar, 2 weights on the floor, and the ring, which is number 20, if you could just show me on the sketch where those items were found. I know the report says near the body, but while all the other items that were in the basement are identified in the sketch, those 3 are not. If you could just direct me to where it was that those were located.
18, 19, and 20 were found partially under the body, if not completely under the body, which is why they aren't showing up on the sketch.
Very good. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Now, you mentioned that there was some fingerprints that were taken, but you don't have a report yet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Where exactly were these fingerprints? First of all, let me ask you this. You're a fingerprint, that's your responsibility or your area of expertise in the forensic science laboratory, correct?
Yes.
And so in your investigation at this house in Rochester Hills that day, where did you obtain prints that you could actually examine? In other words, latent prints that you found on the scene.
So we collected the plastic that was found in the sink that was next to the body.
Okay.
Plastic is a good surface for leaving fingerprints. So I collected those items and I processed those for fingerprints and have developed several fingerprints on that plastic.
So the items, it's a singular type of thing that from which you've obtained the fingerprints that have to be examined yet.
Yes.
And that is plastic that was found in the sink that was laying on the floor and not in operation.
That's correct.
And this plastic, was it related to anything that you could observe, or you came to a conclusion it was related to?
It was just in the sink, which contained apparent blood. It also had the roll of duct tape that was found in the sink was kind of on top of that plastic, kind of sunken in, and it all had apparent blood on it. So I don't know the evidentiary value to it until I'm able to test it.
And I understand that. And this plastic, did it appear to be the type of plastic that covers an item before it's purchased? Or was it plastic that is like cling wrap that you use to wrap up food?
So the plastic consisted of 3 items. One was just a Home Depot grocery bag type of plastic.
Okay.
One was a deflated red inflatable. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it was something that could be inflated. And then there was a large piece of clear plastic. I'm not sure what it's used for. It's kind of a tarp type of deal. It might be laid down for if somebody's painting or something, but it was a very large piece of clear plastic, which is where I found all of the prints that I developed.
Okay, so the ones you were able to develop came from this tarp type plastic, for lack of a better term.
Correct.
And not from the Home Depot bag,
Correct.
and not from the inflatable item.
That's right.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Thank you.
No regret, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you. You can be excused.
Your Honor, the people about to call the medical